What is going on, guys? Brandon here. Monday, January 23rd, 2023. Can you believe it's already the end of January almost? Time flies, so we need to make use of all of our time. It's something we end all of our videos with every single time, but time is money, right? Time is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is time. The only two finite assets we have. We cannot get more of them. There will only be so much time in your life you have, and there's only so many Bitcoin. So trade appropriately. Make the only fair trade for yourself. Do not trade your finite time for infinite pieces of paper or infinite digits in the computer or infinite blades of grass, or do not trade your finite time for infinite grains of sand. Do not make trades that are unfair to yourself. So the last week or so has been a little crazy. Welcomed our fourth child into the world, a little girl, Naomi, and so it's been wild. So I have been scheduled a bunch of videos last week, so I appreciate many of you coming, watching those, joining in, but was not able to do what I'd like to generally do. So we're back at it here. I appreciate the patience and look forward to providing some signal, hopefully, in all the noise in the world. And some people, really quick, by the way, as it pertains to markets and what's going on, some people to just kind of look out for, and the people to watch. Because I think it's very important that, especially in the Bitcoin community, when you're a true Bitcoiner, you're in the value for value economy, and you want to promote other people because we're all on the same mission. When someone else wins, I win, and when I win, someone else wins in the Bitcoin Bitcoin community. When you're actually trading, your value for value, and this is something too that I look forward to implementing in my life, just in general, whether it's asking for tips and donations and things like that. You see a lot in the Bitcoin community now, and trying not to getting away from this model of like, oh, it's subscription based, or things like that, where, hey, if you think I'm providing you value, then feel free to donate some sats, donate some of your wealth this way, so I can keep doing what I'm doing. It's that economy is just now blossoming really in the last 12 months, and it's just exploding, and I'm very, very excited to introduce that to everyone here in my community here, and what we're all building. So look forward to that in the future this year. I have about 12 children's ABCs books already written, and so those will be coming out. And we have a book about For the Love of Money, being the root of evil. That'll be kind of tackling the Christian faith and Catholic Church, and as being a Catholic, some of the things that I really don't like about the church and kind of what has happened over the last 100 years or so. And that's it. It's kind of weird to say that, quite honestly, but there's just a lot of things that for a long time have really kind of kept people back, and it might not have so much to do with the church necessarily. It has to do with our minds, and it has to do with what we are telling ourselves, the stories we are telling ourselves every day. And I think that's something that we try to talk about here a lot. We are what we tell ourselves. We are the stories we tell ourselves, and most of us do not use our mental faculties, our higher faculties. As Bob Proctor always says, if you ask most people to describe to you what they are thinking, they'd be speechless. And it's because most people just think, like, well, I think all the time. Well, he's not talking about just, I hear a fire truck, so I see a picture of a fire truck in my head. He's talking about the higher faculties: perception, will, reason, imagination, memory, and all these higher faculties only humans have. Animals don't have those. Animals have the five senses like we have too, but that's kind of the conscious mind. The subconscious mind is what humans have, and no one else has of those 6 higher faculties. So we need to start using those, and we have to start using those gut feelings, that intuition as one of those higher faculties. We have to start using that and understanding what the world is doing, and the signals that it's giving us, and it's there. And Nolan Ballerley he's Count BTC on Twitter, and he's Count BTC on YouTube. Incredible. He does the show The Breakup. Probably one of the most fascinating minds in Bitcoin, one of the OGs of Bitcoin, and one of the most truly thought-provoking and incredible shows. He does it every morning at 8 a.m. for an hour, and the ways he can intertwine things and put them together is like nothing I've ever seen. And he's going to be and is a massive influencer in the Bitcoin space, but it's still not known enough and well known enough. And if I could just give you one person today, and I'm going to try to, in the future, continue providing resources in that community, decentralized peer-to-peer, softwares and servers to use. I mean, I have so many of them now that I'm starting to test out that are outside the system, outside of the centralized control of the Davos crowd, the Davos elites that I missed last week, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, because I was in the hospital. with the family, and just seeing these goons drive or fly their private jets and spewing carbon emissions everywhere, and then having the audacity to tell us what we should or shouldn't do with our lives and how we're going to live and transact and where we're going to travel and what we're going to eat is just mind-blowing to me. So we talked about that ad infinitum, and we're going to, continue talking ad infinitum, I should say ad nauseum. We're going to continue to rail against what is going on there in the simulation, the Matrix. But please go watch Nolan, and he just does an incredible job. So really quickly, the markets, again, a little bit of movement in the markets, stocks up 1%. The DXY is down. So what we're seeing is, and I just heard Dr. Jeff Ross talk about his macro outlook and what's happening. And, at least short term, he sees a little bit of a change in the winds. We've been noting here the last couple of weeks as we've been showing the charts. And again, I apologize, our internet's down today actually, so I'm just going off the phone, and we will get back tomorrow. We've got a lot of construction going on here, so appreciate the patience with that, and we'll get back to our normal kind of screen share and showing some of the charts. But go to Trading Economics, go check that site out like we've said, because I want you to be able to see what's going on yourself. It really doesn't do me any good if I am just kind of seeing the things myself and I'm just kind of spewing them at you. I want you to be able to be self-sufficient and independent and resilient, and then you can go look and do these things on your own. So again, the last couple of weeks, we've been seeing and showing since the beginning of the year here, doing the market updates and stuff. We've seen since around November 1st or so, we've seen this bottoming or topping out process, I should say. This topping out in the yields, really for the most part. So the yields in the 10-year Treasury, because right now it's at 3.5. And just kind of staying there, just gradually kind of chipping lower. And same thing with the DXY, just continually, it's at 102 now. So continually just kind of digging a little bit lower and lower every single day. And we saw this process, and they were both much higher 2 months ago, and now they've continually just kind of come down. So again, like Dr. Jeff Ross says, in this short term at least, maybe the recession is possibly, we're probably in a recession. We've been in a recession. I remember a couple of quarters ago, I said, hey, we're in a recession, guys. And then this White House, literally that next month, it's like, oh, we're not in a recession because we define it differently. We're changing definitions. So you can go back and see some of the videos I did there, and it's just comedy hour. But again, use your own intuition. Understand where we are in the play here, and what stage we're in. Speaking of stages, 7, 8 stages of empire, one of the videos we did back in like April, please go check that video out and see where we're at in the process, because you're going to be very shocked if you haven't studied this at all, where we're at in the 7 stages. So please go check that out and to what that means for your future. And this is why this is really the basis for everything we do here, and getting prepared, getting resilient, getting independent of the system, because we want to be outside observers. We just want to be here with our chips off the table for the most part. Again, we have investments all over. Again, look at our monthly newsletter to see what's going on there and what we've been doing to allocate and protect ourselves. However, for the most part, we got a good cash position, and possibly gonna refinancing one of our rental properties. Might just sell it outright, to be quite honest, and just completely pull more chips off the table, because there's a lot of stuff coming in the next year or two, and really the next few years, and I want to be able to take advantage of those things. So we've seen this process, at least in the interim. We've seen the softening in the markets, and again, going forward, I would expect things to come and things to really shift, but maybe not. Maybe they're going to gradually just start printing our way and financially repressing things by causing more inflation, by printing more money here, dropping the yields by buying more bonds. And I think they're probably doing this in the background. Again, the central banks are going to financially repress everything, meaning they're going to debase the currency. They're going to print, and then really softening things so they can lend more. Banks can lend more, commercial banks can lend more, and get more currency into the system going forward. And we're going to see asset prices eventually turn around the next year or two, because they need tax receipts from the people, they need capital gains, and they need to get their debt to GDP right. It's just math at the end of the day. They can't afford 5% interest on the debt. They can't afford 10%, 20% interest on $31 trillion. The government can't. So we know which way this is going. I've placed my bets. That's why we're hardcore into Bitcoin. That's why we're hardcore into rental real estate. And again, maybe getting rid of some of that and going even more into Bitcoin and calling the bluff on the banks and the central banks and the government, because we know where they're going. The trend is going one way, and that's the only way it can go. It's going to printing more currency, more inflation long term, and destroying the value of the currency. They've already destroyed 99% of it over the last 100 years. What makes us think that anything else is going to be different over the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? So again, that's the macro, and that's super important. Like I said, stocks are up 1%. This is all kind of just noise though, right? So that's why we talk about Signal. We do our other videos. We talk about some of this and give context, because this is just some of the noise. The most important things in here are the DXY. Like we were talking about the DXY and the 10-year. We want to follow those things because those are the dog that wags the tail. And people do not understand that. They look at stocks and just think like, oh yeah, I'm investing in Facebook. I'm investing in these sweet tech stocks. That means nothing at the end of the day. You have to be invested in primary assets. You have to be looking at the drivers of the economy. And then so like oil is up a little bit since we talked last about this about a week ago, up to 81. That's where you can see a lot more inflation as well. If that goes back up to 100, 120 beyond, then you're gonna see more inflation. Obviously it takes oil to produce things. It takes oil to transport things, and watch for that. So that's gonna be an interesting thing to see play out. Gold and silver obviously had a little run up. They pulled back a little bit, 1 to 2%. Gold looks like about 1%, 2% for silver today, which silver is always a little bit magnified of what gold's doing. And then Bitcoin, again, we haven't talked in a week or so. Bitcoin, I think, was like at 18 about a week ago, last time I was able to do this, and it's at 23. So it jumped up all the way to 23,000, and so we'll see there. Like there could be the new baseline at 20 or 23 or 22. I still think there's a chance that if we see some real impacts in the economy, that we're going to have Bitcoin pull down again. I also think like DCG, I believe Digital Currency Group, I forgot who just now losing my mind. I should probably do a little video on it, but who just filed for bankruptcy. It was Genesis, one of the big ones. I can't think of their name now, but Digital Currency Group or Genesis Trading. Anyway, the point being is that there's still contagion out there. There's still, the longer it goes on and people are having to deal with higher interest rates for longer and making these debt payments, these debt service payments, going to be tougher. So you're going to see more and more ability, or more and more opportunity for companies to go belly up. And we just saw another one in the crypto space. Bitcoin though has gone up on the news, ironically. So people want to say, oh, Bitcoin's down, Bitcoin's a bubble, this and that. Tulip bubbles, they pop and then they go away forever. They don't come back. And Bitcoin is constantly being called dead. This is where you have to be able to hold two different points in your head at the same time, and have the intelligence to kind of research both and understand what's what. And this is why Bitcoin's crashed 4 or 5 times, massive crashes, like 70, 80, 90%, and it's come back, and then all-time highs. That's not how bubbles work. If it's a bubble or it's a Ponzi scheme, it just goes away. Bernie Madoff goes to jail. Sam Bankman-Fried goes to jail. There's no one that owns Bitcoin at the end of the day, right? So we have to understand what we're working with. It's a digital, pristine collateral asset, an asset without an issuer. It's a commodity. There's no one, there's a million nodes in the world, and miners all together, all these people running this, hundreds of thousands at the very least, and you have to stop out every single one. Every single one would have to be stopped out for this network to collapse. And again, if you have an asteroid hit the Earth, then we have a lot more problems. Maybe that's the way we can do it. We still have satellites running the Bitcoin network. So even if you had an asteroid hit the Earth, not going to stop Bitcoin. So we have to understand what we're doing, how we're doing it, and trade that time, or finite time, for a finite asset. It's the only two I know of is time and Bitcoin. So I appreciate you tuning in today. I'm excited to be back. This is just checking my notes here. This is a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff. And it's, we're going to talk again more about frameworks. We're going to talk more about our kids' books. I believe that the youth is the future, obviously. And we have to be setting them up with the right frameworks and the right ideals and priorities, so that they can be independent, resilient on their own, and not be looking for handouts from the government, looking for handouts from teachers, looking for handouts from their superiors, adults in the room, whoever. They have to be the adults in the room. The younger people, the young people are going to be the 30 and under crowd right now, basically, is going to be the people who drive us forward into this new world of AI, of 3D printing, of whatever we're going into, space travel. They're the ones that are going to drive all of this and create the world that we're all living in. So I appreciate you. Please let me know your thoughts and comments on this, and just even some of your thoughts on the markets and what's happening. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Super excited to be back here. And again, appreciate your time and energy, because the most important asset we have, time is Bitcoin, Bitcoin is time. Make the fair trade for yourself. And again, I apologize for the noise. Got a lot going on here. But make the fair trade for yourself. Time for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is time. We'll see you on the next one.